Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I have an urgent video for you. Last year, as you probably know, I've done a full rebuild on an S63 engine and I posted some videos here on YouTube. And ever since that, I've been getting a lot of emails from people all over the world asking for tips and suggestions with a V8 projects. Now, everything I discuss here in the channel is something that I either learned rebuilding these engines, or is something that is out there that I have a proof that is actually true. YouTube is an excellent tool, is an excellent platform if you want to learn something new, but you also gotta be careful who you're gonna be learning things from, because I have seen several times videos that are completely untrue and misleading, making people spend a lot of time and money on things that are actually totally unrelated to the initial problem. Now, back to the urgent video. I was reading my emails just now, and a guy named Newman sent me some photos of his engine, his projects, and something really got my attention, because it's not the first but the second time this month itself that I've seen that happening. And after putting a little bit more thinking onto it, I thought, yeah, that is definitely an issue. That is definitely something that can happen. And I thought, I'm just gonna make a quick video about it. That's the reason why it's urgent. So I don't actually have an oil filter or a cap, or I don't have my tools. I didn't even have a shower today. Let me tell you what's going on. This is the photo that Newman has sent me. And while most people are gonna look at the photos and say, this is just your rod bearings are short, or your main bearings are going, there's some copper. It's a big deal, yes, but let me tell you this is not what the video today is about, because if your rod bearings are done, you're gonna have to replace them, and this is a very well-known issue with the S63 and the N63 community. But what I want to talk about today is your oil filter cap, okay? This guy here, which is what you put your oil filter on, and then you screw it back into the oil filter housing. Now, what's the real issue, you might ask? Well, the issue is this. Imagine you're at home doing an oil change. You're gonna be changing the oil and the filter. And especially if you're ducking under the car, or like I was doing this last year, I was ducking under the car trying to remove the filter. We know that sometimes things are not as smooth as we want them to be. So things can go a little bit wrong. It is what it is. Ah, yes, beautiful. And what actually happened is, when you throw the old filter away, a pressure relief valve may be stuck inside of the filter. It will come unloose, it will come unclip, because this is what it actually is. The pressure relief valve is clipped to the bottom of the filter cap, and sometimes when you remove the filter, the actual pressure relief valve stays inside of the filter. And if you're not paying 100% attention on what you're doing, you might just throw away the filter, not realizing that the pressure valve is gone. So you put the new filter in, you put the housing, the old housing back in there, and that is going to cause a big drama, because the oil is no longer going through the filter, it's actually bypassing the filter through this metal mesh that you see at the bottom of the filter, and it is not designed to be that way. Now, what is the pressure relief valve and why it goes missing? That's what you're probably asking yourself. Well, first of all, the pressure relief valve is there for safety, okay, and for an emergency. If your oil filter ever gets to the point that it's too dirty and gets clogged up, the pressure relief valve opens a path through the bottom of the filter, so the oil actually bypasses the filter through that metal mesh and makes the way through the engine. So it's better for you to have dirty oil than having no oil at all. And that's the reason why the pressure relief valve is there. It's for an emergency. At the end of the day, the oil that goes through the filter is a lot cleaner than the oil that goes through the mesh. That's why you don't want that to be happening. That's just the emergency scenario. Why it goes missing? Well, let me tell you this. The pressure valve doesn't go missing. It gets thrown away. It doesn't simply disintegrate from your engine and disappear like that. Someone, either yourself or a mechanic, I have seen cases where a guy picked up the car from the mechanic after a few weeks. He said that he was getting Venus codes and timing codes, and when he pulled out the oil, he pulled out the filter, he realized that the pressure valve wasn't there. Yeah, it's again, if you consider the likelihood of that happening, if you are in a rush, you unclip the filter. Again, the filter cap is made of plastic, and imagine the amount of heat cycles that thing goes through. It's like hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. If you get a 100,000 kilometers car, how many times the heat cycle had affected the plastic on the oil filter cap? And the pressure valve is nothing but a valve that is clipped to the bottom of the filter. So with the age and the heat cycles, those bit of plastics, they actually break down, and eventually when you remove the filter from the filter cap, the valve just come undone, and without even realizing, you throw that in the bin, and that's when the whole nightmare starts. Now, this is one of the reasons why I recommend you guys, on your next oil change, just make sure you buy a filter cap as well. You can get a genuine BMW filter cap for less than $50. Last time I checked, I think it was $42 or $45 for a genuine cap. And this is the sort of job that you're only going to be doing once in your lifetime, because chances are you're not going to have the car for long enough to be replacing it after another 100,000 Ks or whatever it is. And it's cheap enough for you to save from a headache, unless you are very diligent to every single time you remove your oil filter, you look and you make sure that the cap is there. But again, for $50, I'd rather just replace it and not having to worry about it. Okay, Daniel, but thank you very much for the information, but I just actually removed my filter and I realized that the valve is not there. Or what's even worse, maybe I was getting Venus codes and timing issues with my car, and I realized the pressure relief valve is not there. What would you recommend me to do? Well, that's a tricky one, because although these could trigger some Venus codes and timing issues, I'm definitely not saying that whatever Venus codes you have is caused by the oil cap. No, there's a bunch of different things that could cause the Venus and timing issues. But what I would recommend for you is, number one, buy a new cap, buy a new filter, do an oil change on the car, and remove the Venus solenoids, because they also have a tiny little filter mesh on them that they can get clogged. So if your valve is missing, obviously there's going to be a lot of debris, as you can see in this photo. There's going to be a lot of debris on the oil filter mesh, but again, this doesn't filter 100%, so there's going to be a lot of junk that actually bypass the filter and end up in your cams or in your bearings or in your Venus solenoids, and that's the reason why you're getting the codes. So yes, remove the solenoids, make sure you clean those filters 100% or as much as you can. Assemble everything back together with a fresh filter and a cap and fresh oil, and most importantly is, you've got to plug your scanner and delete the engine adaptations. And why do you need to do that? Because your ECU, the engine controlling units, keeps a log of everything that goes on inside of the engines, and also for the oil pressure. So depending on the pressure, you adjust the Venus sprockets to advance or to retard your timing in the engine. And basically, as you actually disrupting the flow. If your Venus solenoids get blocked, the oil flow is not going to be the same. So once you do anything in the oil line, or even when you replace the filter cap, if your valve is missing and you put another one, I would recommend that you delete the adaptation so the engine can start fresh and learn everything again. Maybe, okay, if you're lucky, your Venus codes or your timing issues could go away. I'm not saying that it's gonna go away, but that thing is a lot easier and is a lot cheaper to do than actually dismantling and rebuilding your engine. So it is a way for you to go. Now, if you think this video was helpful, if you have an N63 or an S63 engine, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the other videos that are coming out in the future. We do have a bunch of stuff on the M5s, X5Ms and the S63, N63 engines. And if you click on the notification bell, you're actually gonna get an email every time I post a new video. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.